The morning was supposed to be quiet. Two veterans, just looking for a peaceful breakfast, never imagined the sound of the diner door would feel like a warning siren. A man in a sharp FBI jacket stepped in, eyes scanning, hand resting near his holster. No greeting, no explanation, just suspicion. Coffee cups paused mid-air, forks frozen. Outside, the world carried on, unaware. Inside, time slowed as decades of service, scars, and loyalty were questioned in an instant. This was more than a routine check. It was a lesson in prejudice and authority. And for these two men, it was a confrontation they would never forget. Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe so more stories like this reach people who need to hear them. The diner sat at the edge of a quiet town, its neon sign flickering under the early morning sky. Cafe wasn't fancy, but it was the kind of place where everyone knew your name, your usual order, and maybe even the last time your grandson scored in Little League. Inside, the smell of bacon, brewed coffee, and warm toast mingled, wrapping the room in familiarity. Jackson "Jax" Monroe pushed open the door just after 9 a.m., his broad frame moving with a careful, deliberate calm. The faded army jacket over his shoulders and the Desert Storm cap on his head told part of his story. He had served, seen too much, and returned home carrying invisible scars. Waiting for him in a corner booth was Malik Harris, his old Marine medic buddy, slim, sharp-eyed, and still quick with a grin. They exchanged nods, sliding into the red vinyl booth patched with tape and years of history. Today was simple: coffee, conversation, and a rare chance to catch their breath. They weren't trying to impress anyone. This wasn't about war stories. It was about claiming a small moment of peace in a world that rarely slowed down for them. But the calm didn't last. The bell above the door jingled again, and a figure entered that would turn their morning upside down. A man in a crisp FBI jacket, mid-40s, eyes sharp and scanning the room. He walked directly toward their booth, not a smile in sight, hand brushing the edge of his holster. The air shifted. Conversation stopped. The veterans felt it instantly. The quiet morning had cracked, and the room held its breath. Agent Collins stopped at the edge of their booth, eyes scanning Jax and Malik like he was reading an incident report written in real time. No greeting, no introduction, just a clipped voice. "You two have ID on you?" he asked, tone flat, but carrying an edge that suggested authority meant more than reason. Jax's brow furrowed slightly, but his voice stayed even. "We're just having breakfast." "What's the problem?" Collins didn't answer. His gaze swept the diner, taking in the other patrons, families, retirees, teenagers with backpacks, but his focus snapped back to the two black veterans as if nothing else existed. Malik leaned back, crossing his arms. "You came in here targeting us without speaking to anyone else?" The question hung like a stone in the room. A few customers glanced over, some confused, others uneasy. Collins' hand twitched near the edge of his jacket, a subtle signal of readiness, of threat. Jax's eyes didn't leave him. Calm, measured, but underneath, a quiet storm simmered. "I got a call about suspicious individuals outside the diner," Collins replied, voice sharp. "I'm just confirming who you are." Malik let out a slow breath, shaking his head. "Suspicious? We've been coming here for years. We're regulars. Eating eggs and talking isn't a crime." The FBI agent blinked once, almost imperceptibly, but made no move to soften his posture. Instead, he radioed something in, voice clipped and professional. Collins's jaw tightened. Around the room, tension thickened. A young woman at the counter, recording on her phone, zoomed in on his posture, the rigid shoulders, the clenched jaw, and the veteran's calm defiance. Jax reached slowly into his pocket and laid his military ID on the table. Malik followed suit. The two cards, side by side, spoke of decades of service, scars earned, lives dedicated, and resilience. Collins stared, momentarily unmoving, then muttered, "I'll need to call this in." Before he could lift his radio again, the diner door opened, and a second figure entered, Director Fiona of the local FBI field office. Mid-50s, sharp-suited, presence commanding without needing to assert it aggressively. She had been briefed and had come to assess in person. "Agent Collins," she said, voice calm but firm, "step back. You've escalated a situation unnecessarily. You've skipped protocol by singling out two individuals without cause. Explain to me what actionable threat they pose." Collins hesitated, caught between authority and accountability. The director's gaze didn't waver, resting instead on Jax and Malik. "Gentlemen," she said, softer now, "I apologize for this intrusion." "You've done nothing wrong. Let's ensure it doesn't happen again." Malik let out a long breath, shoulders relaxing slightly. Jax nodded, voice low but pointed. We served this country. We didn't volunteer to be treated like suspects in our own town. Director acknowledged it with a small, serious nod. Around the diner, the tension slowly released, the customers' curious stares turning into murmurs of approval. The veterans hadn't raised their voices. They hadn't flinched. Their calm, measured strength had forced accountability. Malik and Jax exchanged a brief glance. Their morning coffee was no longer quiet, no longer simple, but the room, the director. Even Agent Collins had learned something vital. Authority must be tempered with reason, and respect cannot be optional. The diner fell quiet again, the hum of the coffee machines and chatter fading into a tense stillness. Outside, a few neighbors paused on the sidewalk, peering through the windows, sensing that something significant had just unfolded. Director Reynolds stood near the booth, arms folded, her gaze steady on Agent Collins. She said, "You're going to be placed on administrative leave while we review your conduct. This isn't just about procedure, it's about judgment and professionalism." Collins's jaw twitched, but he said nothing. The weight of decades of training and authority couldn't shield him from accountability. Jax lifted his coffee mug slowly, resting it on the table. "You saw us. You walked in thinking we were a threat. You didn't even ask questions, didn't check with the staff, didn't notice anyone else in this diner. That's profiling, plain and simple," Malik added, voice calm but pointed. "We fought for this country. We didn't volunteer to be treated like strangers in our own town, like criminals for ordering breakfast." Director Reynolds nodded, acknowledging the truth in their words. She turned to the diners around them. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "what you've just witnessed is not acceptable behavior from anyone representing this office. We will be reviewing our policies, retraining personnel, and ensuring this doesn't happen again." A retired Army colonel sitting near the counter finally spoke, voice low but firm. It took two veterans sitting quietly at a table to teach a young agent how to behave. Shame it came to that. The room murmured in agreement. Outside, the news vans arrived, lights blinking, cameras rolling. Bianca, the young woman who had been recording the incident, quickly set up again, her phone capturing every second. Social media notifications were already blowing up. The video had gone viral within minutes. Reynolds gestured to the veterans. "If you're willing, we'd like to let the public hear your side. This isn't just about what happened here. It's about setting a precedent." Jax exchanged a glance with Malik. Both had wanted peace that morning, but the moment had escalated beyond a simple breakfast. "All right," Jax said finally. "But we speak our truth, nothing more." In front of cameras, with phones rolling, Jax and Malik recounted the morning. No shouting, no dramatics, just calm, precise recounting of events. Each word landed heavily, carrying the weight of experience, service, and dignity. Director Reynolds stepped aside, allowing the public to see that accountability had a face. She addressed the crowd, the news crew, and the diners alike. "We are committed to correcting our mistakes. Agent Collins' actions were not acceptable. We will act, we will train, and we will listen to those who have served and protected this country." The diner erupted in quiet applause. Patrons who had watched from the booths, staff who had felt helpless, even neighbors outside now clapped and cheered. A small, powerful wave of acknowledgement filled the room. Outside, Sheriff arrived, nodding respectfully to the veterans and to Director Reynolds. He took a moment to address the cameras, promising transparency, reform, and support for veterans in the community. The story quickly spread across social media, news outlets, and local conversations. People debated, shared, and reflected, not only on the incident, but on how authority should be wielded. The video, calm yet undeniable, became a teaching moment. As the room returned to its usual hum, Jax and Malik quietly finished their coffee. The diner had gone back to normal on the surface, but beneath it, something had changed. Respect, accountability, and awareness had been restored, if only for a moment, through calm, dignity, and unwavering truth. Jack stood, stretching his shoulders. "We didn't ask for attention, but it looks like we got it." They walked out together, IDs in pocket, veterans of war and now of patience and courage. The sun hit the diner's sign, flickering like it had absorbed the weight of the morning and decided to shine brighter. And in that small town, people remembered, not the confrontation, but the strength, the honor, and the truth. If you've experienced or witnessed the same, share your story in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe.